Welcome. My name is Debbie and this is Pouring My Art Out for the Lord. And I have a new project for you today. I have a new sale for you today. I decided every Friday in August I'm going to have a sale, a different sale. Last week we had a sale on the mini hymn journals, a bundle of all 6 of them. So hopefully if you wanted that deal, you got a chance to grab that. This week we're going to do a sale on my faith notebooks, and these have been really popular. This was my first set. Each kit is a set of 5. So this one is, I call it the Distressed Faith Notebooks, and it's got almost a leather looking cover. Some faux stitching, and there's Pouring My Art Out for the Lord. And I like that not just because it's my branding, but when you do art, you're also pouring your art out for the Lord. So it refers to me, but it refers to what you're doing as well. And each one of them has a different faith saying on them. So this one is chosen, blessed, forgiven, redeemed. Do not be conformed to this world, be transformed. Romans 12:2. Do not fear, for I'm with you. From Isaiah 41:10. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. And but first pray. So that was the first set. And I showed you a way to do these where they look really professional. They look like you purchased them from a store. And I'm going to show you exactly the same process today. So that was the first set. The second set was a set of floral faith notebooks. And this is just one of the covers. I'll show you the other covers on the screen here. So this one says blessed. I picked this one to show you today because it's got the poppies on it. And we've been working with poppies for the month of July, and poppies are still on my brain, I guess. So here's one that I made from that kit. And then the next kit I decided to make and launch today, and this is going to be part of the sale. So the sale will be all 3 of these complete kits together. And this one I called Old Lace. So I have kind of a fabric cover in the background here. And then I have some old lace as an insert, and then I have some textured rickrack there. And then each one of them has the Pouring My Art Out for the Lord, and also a different faith saying. So bless the Lord, O my soul, child of God, and they all have different lace. Beauty from ashes, Isaiah 61:3, created with a purpose, and all my hope is in Jesus. So I hope you like those ones. And then for each kit, I have a backing page. For this one, I have the same backing page for each booklet because they all match. For these ones, I have a different backing page for each booklet, so they are matched. And then for this one, again, I used one backing page for all of the booklets. So it's just an old lace background, so I think that works really well. And then for each of the kits, I have one page with some grid paper and one page with some lined paper, and they're all different again. This particular one, I decided to do kind of an old ledger type page. I really, really like that. Did a bunch of layers for that one, and grid, so you can pick whichever one you want, if you want grid or lined, or a combination of both. What I've been doing is I print lined on one side, grid on the other side, and then use both in the booklet. So that's just my way of doing it. So I'm going to show you how to put one of these together. So let's see, which one do we want? I think I'm just going to use created with a purpose. So the first thing I want to do is I want to trim all of the white off of the edges here. And my trimmer is a little bit tough to see exactly where that edge is if it's not right at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is just with my ruler, I'm just going to extend this line. I'll just retract it a little bit here. Just going to extend that line to the bottom with a pen mark so that I can just cut it easily. You don't have to do that if your trimmer, you know, shows your line pretty well. Mine just doesn't. So I'm going to line up that line and give it a trim like that. Then it's perfect. And you only have to do it on the first one because the second one I can see exactly where that's going to cut there. So just trim off, take your time and trim all 4 edges off. Your printer may print a little crooked on your page. Home printers are not made to print oops, didn't mean to do that, so I'll have to fix that. They're not meant to to handle the paper like the, you know, the big huge commercial printers. So you may have a little bit of wonky, so you probably want to straighten that out. Even if you have to cut a little bit off, extra off one edge just to straighten out your project. So you may need to, instead of putting it straight in your cutter, you may have to tilt it just a little bit just to get it straight, and then use that as a, you know, straight on your cutter guide to make the next one completely 90 degrees. It'll make a better notebook if you do it that way. So let me see what I'm going to stick on there. I have a little bit of this that I just cut off. I don't know whether, yeah, I'm just going to glue that on there. I thought I'd leave this part in so you could see how I fix something. I could reprint it, but, and these, I don't know, these, I normally do junk journals where there's, you know, a little bit of kind of leeway for some, you know, some grunge and that kind of stuff. But these ones I really did want to look really professional. So if I wasn't just filming this on the camera, I probably would reprint it. But there, now you will never notice. I don't even really see it. The camera will probably pick it up, but with my eyes, I hardly see that. Then I'm just going to take my ink, it doesn't matter, some kind of brown ink, and I'm just going to kind of tilt my dauber like that so that I'm pretty much just getting the edge, because this edge is going to be white after cutting it, and I want to just take that white edge off. So I'm just going to do it like this because I don't want a whole bunch of ink. You know, you could grunge it up more if you like. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, just kind of right at the edge. I'm trying to get these to look as close as I can to, you know, what you would purchase. I'm kind of a bit of a sucker for buying notebooks. I go and I see a pretty notebook in the store and I want to buy it, and I don't need it, but this way I thought, you know, I can make my own whenever I want, and I don't need to be tempted when I go to a store. So now I have, you know, 15 different covers to choose from that I've created, so I have no excuse to go and buy one. Okay, so then you can print these borderless if you want. I decided to print them without borderless. So I have all of the tops lined up on the top, and I'm just going to cut this white edge off, just off the top. Like that, and there's plenty of paper here, so it doesn't matter. I did cut a little bit off of my number there, but I'm okay with that. Actually, it's pretty much just this first one, so I think I'm actually going to just trim a tiny bit more off and get rid of that number. There. Now they'll just be all the same. So then I just want to line those up at the top, you know, make sure that they're all lined up nicely at the top. And we want to line this up at the top. And I have some clips here. And it doesn't really matter side to side. You can roughly center it from side to side, but we're going to trim that off anyways. So I'm just going to put some of these clips on. These clips are meant for sewing, but they work great on paper. If you there's a colored side and a clear side. The clear side is flat, so I like to put the clear side at the bottom, just so that it, you know, feeds in nicely into the. I'm going to sew this right away. I guess I didn't say that part yet. If you don't want to sew it, you could staple it. You could use a long arm stapler. You could use a normal stapler and just open it like this and put like a book or something underneath and staple it like that, and then turn it over and close those prongs with pliers. You could even do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, but I think if you want to get it, you know, if you have the capability to sew with the sewing machine, I think that gives it the most professional look, because you see that on these little notebooks all the time when you purchase them. So I'm just going to go stitch down there. I'm going to leave a long tail at the top, a long tail at the bottom. I'm going to stop right where this cover ends. I'm not going to keep stitching there. If you stitch a little farther, you can just take out that last stitch or whatever, because you want it to hug the cover. So I'll be right back. So I stitched that down the center. I ended right here. Mine just got right to that edge, which was perfect. I didn't mention that you do want as long a stitch as possible. I used the longest stitch on my machine. It's called number 6. It's like a basting stitch. The closer you get on when you're sewing on paper, the more chance you have for the paper to rip, because you're basically like perforating it, like you're, you know, making a removable ticket or something. So you want bigger, longer stitch length. And I never backstitch on paper. I know some people do, but I like to, especially for something like this that's not, you know, really junky looking, I guess. I mean, if I'm just, you know, doing some junky, I shouldn't say junky, but, you know, some just really rough pockets and just stitching around the edges, I don't care about it. But for something like this, I just really do want it to look professional. So we're going to tie off those edges in a minute, or the strings rather, not the edges. So first I want to just tuck these tails at the bottom of the cover. I want to tuck them back. I'm just going to hold them with my fingers. And then I'm going to try not to cut those off. I don't want to cut those off. So I'm just going to pull my cover so that it's lined up, hopefully at the bottom there. And I'll check it. Yep, that looks perfect. So then what I want to do is tie knots at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to kind of just turn it to the inside to tie my knots, so the knots are kind of more on the inside than the outside. And I just usually tie, I'm having trouble seeing my thread here. I usually tie 3. 2 is probably enough, but I like 1 extra. So there's the bottom, and here's the top. Just 3 knots again. I don't know if you can hear in my office faces the backyard, and our neighbor's dog had puppies. So the puppies think that they belong here. We live on a farm, so we're a little ways away from them. But the puppies think they belong here, so they're in the backyard playing and rebel-rousing, and so you might hear a couple of yips and yaps. That's just the neighbor's puppies. So then you want to I don't worry about the number here because it depends on how centered this is. But I just line up where I stitched with the number 6 is usually what I pick. And then I just score down here. Oops. And you might have to, you know, kind of work at this a little bit because you've got lots of layers to go through. Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's kind of just a suggestion at this point. And then you can bend your book at that suggested place. And you don't want to crease a really heavy crease on there because, you know, when you get these books, they have kind of a rounded spine. They don't have a really crisp cut spine. So I like to leave mine the same, just kind of a little bit rounded. I might just gently coax it like that. You can add a little bit of ink if you think your thread is too white. You want maybe a little bit of contrast there. And then we just have our side edges to worry about. So grab our trimmer again. If your trimmer doesn't do this many layers, then you could just use a ruler and a craft knife just to peel away those layers, or you could even use a scissor if you're careful. So I'm just going to line this up here. My trimmer groans a little bit, but it cuts it. So I did cut a tiny bit off of the edge here, my cover. So I'm just going to ink just the edge again. I just like that part not to be, see, I don't know if you can see the white there. And then you just do that and the white goes away. And there is the completed book. So I think that turned out really, really cute. So there's my lined paper. Here's my, you know, you could put a pocket or different things there. There's your little notebook. There's the back cover where we have a little oops. Doesn't bother me at all. And then the last thing I want to do is just take a drop of liquid glue and put it on those knots. And that just kind of even take your finger and kind of, you know, push that glue into the knot there. And then let that dry completely. And then when it dries, then you can trim off the edges. I wouldn't trim them right at that knot. Like on here, I just leave not even 1/4 of an inch from the knot, but it just gives a little, so it's not gonna, it shouldn't come undone with the glue, but I just like to leave a tiny little bit. So I'm just gonna leave that until it dries, and then that will be my book. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you take advantage of this bundle sale if that's of interest to you. And blessings. We'll see you in the next video.